So here we are on day 14. We've been traveling across the Hexatetraglyph, which is this device sitting in front of me. It's an oracle board that allows seekers to travel for 27 days across a terrain that is built upon the structure of the I Ching. It's kind of a little sacred space for inner initiation. During the time period, you go through the entire deck of tarot cards. You work with all 12 zodiac signs. And on the final day, you get a hexagram from the I Ching. Kind of gives you the final word or helps you analyze and integrate everything that you just did. The zodiac and the planets, they help you come up with ideas for the day. What you want to journal about, what do you want to explore. And the tarot cards help you dive in and get some more details. For me, this process, now that we're halfway through the deck, has been invaluable. It really truly is like an inner initiation. I've seen the Death card, the Tower card, the Devil, the Nine of Swords. The Justice card actually sent me into a depression for a couple days. You'll see one of those days, I forget which it was, but I'm wearing a gray shirt. I probably wear a gray shirt pretty often. I like neutrals, but man, I was struggling on that day. That one's a little bit of a blur. Whatever I processed on that day. Oh yes, I remember. It was the moon in Cancer, of course. It had been raining. I was depressed. And that came after drawing the moon a few days before, and then just being overwhelmed and flooded by emotions. I had to face that Justice card and that Devil, and it felt like karmic energy had caught up with me a little bit, and sitting here trying to make peace with things and trying to process. It's tough. It's a challenge, and that's why I built this, is to create a practice that actually challenges someone who's willing to face their shadow, and also to try to look for joy, but true, authentic, healthy, real satisfaction in life. So yesterday I tried to work on a review video because I'm halfway through the deck. And if you're following along, you should be halfway through as well. You should have 39 cards left to work with. But I'm a novice with recording, and I really messed up the whole video. I tried to do all these screen recordings off the YouTube channel, and they all came out messed up. So I spent several hours on a project that was ultimately a failure. But I did go back and review everything, and I looked through it. And I think that was really healthy because now I remember where I'm at in the process. I feel a lot more aware of where I've traveled, how I've gotten to the point that I have. And some things that I would like to do in the future is, one, for sure, I would like to build at least 84 tarot card spreads / journaling prompts. So, if you are on the sun in Cancer, you can turn to a page in a little booklet that I'm going to create, and you'll find sun in Cancer. What's a tarot card spread I could use for this day? What's some journaling ideas I could use? I would love for that to be available, and I think it becomes kind of essential. I'm starting to realize as this process moves on, because now I'm looking at these cards that I have left, and I'm thinking, what do I have left here? And that's starting to kind of influence me a little bit. And I think it would be nice to have some ideas that were already pre-manufactured, I don't know. I'd like some feedback on that, but I'm still working through that and trying to sort out why that's important. But I do feel that it is. Of course, we always know what's in the deck. When you start, you have 78 cards, and you know what's going to be there and what isn't. You're not going to reach into the deck and pull out a card that doesn't belong there, right? You know what your 78 cards are to begin with. Now I kind of know what my 39 cards are. I realized in my first video that I filmed, I said that I was working with 6 planets. I meant to say 7, but I think it was in my mind 6 because we leave one in the center here. I do have some ideas for that center planet. You know, it is very influential, even though it doesn't feel like it is, because if you only have one tiebreaker and that center planet steps in and influences which pathway you move on, that's very influential on your final hexagram. If it only just changes one line in the whole process, that can totally change the advice you get in the end. So there's a balance of how much power that center planet should have, but I do kind of look at it as a ruling planet, right? So I've been working with Jupiter, and so far it really hasn't done anything other than not be part of the planets that I draw. So it has excluded itself. I guess that's a sort of power. It removed itself. It probably took some yang energy out of my choices, and then it put some yin energy on the board because it's Jupiter in Cancer, and I placed it as yin on the first move. So it's been holding a yin position there all along. And so if I do get a tiebreaker, it'll break yin. But removing it out of my possible choices, that takes a yang choice away from the gameplay. So it does have an impact just sitting there as is. But I'm thinking that one thing would be interesting is to experiment with it the way that it is either in a conjunction or opposition with the planet you work with for that day. So let's say today I'm working with Venus, and let's say Jupiter is conjunct with Venus. How could I create a situation where Venus is empowered even more, or the cards that I work with have an extra value or quantifiable property to them, right? So, or let's say it's in opposition. Let's say it's in opposition, and I chose Venus for the day, and it's in opposition to Jupiter, which is sitting in the middle. Maybe I take one of the cards. Let's say I have a yin Venus. Maybe I discard one of those cards and put it in the yang pile. So then 2 would go in my yin pile and 1 would go in my yang. It's almost like paying dues to the other side or something like that. Now that's pretty messy. I'm not explaining it very well, but this is the way that my mind works as I design. So I'm giving you a little bit of insight of how I start to work with ideas. And that's going to be an expansion. But I do think that the position of the tie-breaking planet in the center, kind of a ruling planet, could have some influence in the future. And I think conjunctions and oppositions is probably a good place to look. One thing I've found when it comes to designing a system like this is you have to be careful of how complex you make stuff. Like, I have put a huge amount of complexity just in the layout of this board, and I think most people aren't going to exactly catch those things. There's a fractal design where everything is spaced to be aesthetically pleasing to just look at. It feels right. You know, I designed it on originally on a 15 by 15 just spreadsheet, but then I continued to play with that design and keep it symmetrical, but also give it a nice flow. And then I brought in the 27 because I wanted it to fit with the path of the moon. Why the moon? Well, if I would have done the sun, then it would take you a whole year to play, and there'd be a huge number of positions to move across. So I chose, how about a planet that's a month long? You know, most people could sit down and handle this for a month, approximately a little less than a month. And by tying it to the movement of a planet, that ensures that you have an opportunity to work with every single zodiac sign. The moon gives you a chance, right? So not only are you going to work with every tarot card, you're going to work with potentially every zodiac sign and all 7 of the classic planets. So I really had to do a lot of work to make those numbers align. And I really let that just emerge over time. I didn't force it. I did things like, there's things I had to think about, like, why would all the yang be in the top right and the yin be in the bottom left? There's different ways to arrange things. So I was looking at zodiac charts, the day and the night. Where does it fall on a zodiac? I was looking at the Hetu and Loshu river maps. If you look at the Hetu and Lushu, they're different. It's hard to align. So I went with the very oldest, the original. And I put the majority of yang energy at the top right and the majority of the yin energy at the bottom left. But that decision alone, it's been difficult. It's been difficult to even make something like that. So every single thing is very painstaking. And I want dreams, visionary experiences, and the intuition to be the primary driver here, but I also want to honor tradition the best that I can. I want to be inclusive, and I never want to force any systems to overlap with each other. So that's been extremely important. Like, they run side by side. And it's interesting because while I was deep into this work, my wife had a dream about 3 rivers running side by side. And I just thought, that's so strange. It was like a message for me. Now, she's a Gemini, so maybe it was a message for me. She told it to me, and she's like, this was such an interesting dream. I saw 3 rivers, and they were running side by side, but they never touched. And I was like, oh, man, that's astrology, tarot, and the I Ching. Now, of course, they do overlap in some ways, but I'm not forcing that. I'm letting them kind of be in harmony with one another. I've looked back on some difficult issues in my life, big changes. I had to face times when I thought I was mature and I wasn't. I was immature. I had to look at my inability to do public speaking and how that led me to partake in substance abuse. I went back and went through a visionary experience I had that was painful for me. I had to think about when my kids moved away, a divorce, and some of the rocky times that I've gone through because of that. Reinventing myself, trying to reinvent myself and failing, and being here still trying to do that in my 40s, in my mid 40s. I've had to think about karma and justice in good and bad ways. Face mortality, look at the shadow, look at the chains that shackle me, that make me feel frozen, my anxiety issues, and that I need to rest and find joy. And there's been a bunch of cards that were offering me gifts. So it's been an interesting experience, to say the least. I'm actually extremely grateful for it. I've gone through and experienced some imaginal alchemical changes that were very clear to me. I really appreciated how I went through a cycle of the sun and the moon, and then the two conjoined together. The synchronicity has been amazing. The synchronicity truly has. I feel like if you have a fascination in synchronicity, this process I've been doing is a case study for you. Maybe it's a little case study. I don't know how many researchers or people are out there that really take a deep fascination in synchronicity, but if they exist, I'm documenting this partially for you. It's an offering. Please take a look at the planets that I draw, the signs, the cards that come up and correlate with them and resonate with them, and then we'll find out, does this hexatetraglyph calculate a good endpoint for me? Does it give me a hexagram from the I Ching that feels right? Okay, that's kind of my review. I'm going to do my card draw very quickly now, because that was the big part for today. I'm going to freestyle this. If you want to slow down and pause as I draw and write down your own journal entries and stuff like that, that's fine. It's the weekend. I have a little bit going on here. And I haven't taken my dog out. If you don't know, I have a big German Shepherd laying here right next to me right now. I'd like to show you, but she's pretty heavy. And she's waiting for me to take her out. Okay. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and reach in and grab a couple planets. What do I have? Okay, I thought that was Mercury for a minute. That's Mars. I don't know. I was kind of hoping I would get Mars soon, because I haven't worked with Mars. Okay. Oh, but the sun also just went into Virgo today. So I have Mars in Libra, and the sun just entered Virgo. And this might be bizarre, but I think I'm going to place the sun on the yin side. I don't know if that's a good idea, but we're on position N on the lower pathway. So that's going to go on the left side, the sun, on the yin side. I knew there would eventually come an awkward situation where I put something in a place where I'm like, wow, the sun is going in the yin position. Okay. But you know, the sun does go down, right? So I'll just think of it sort of like that. The sun is down today, and Mars is in Libra, and I feel like that's for me, that feels extremely yang. And so I'm going to put that on the right side on N. All right, give me just a second. I'm going to grab a book and we'll just read a little bit about Mars and Libra. Okay. Mars in Libra, you have a way of asserting yourself that acts more like a charm offense than a battle. You might be aroused by issues of unfairness. Unfairness. We've been talking about justice, and I think that our country lacks that. I think if you have a lot of money, you can do anything that you want. If you're a billionaire, you can do anything that you want. There's just no guardrails. And if you are on the lower end of the social class, or a minority, or underrepresented, it's a whole different... I don't want to get political, and I don't want to get into social issues right now. Maybe some other time. But I grew up being force-fed a certain idea system, and I've rejected that at this point in my life. There's my girl. You want to say hi, Maya? Here's my baby girl. Say hi. She yawns if I hold her. But she's a very sweet girl. Oh, are you very sweet? Yes. Yeah, you're my good girl. This is my wolf baby, Maya. Actually, German Shepherd. I call her a wolf baby because she makes a lot of funny noises. Okay, don't knock my camera down, please. Let's just say that the process of changing your worldview leaves you with a lot of complexes. And I mean that in a Jungian way. All right. There's an archetypal core. There's a whole bunch of experiences. You were force-fed a belief system from a young age, and then you decide that's not for you. And then as an older person, things remind you of the way you were taught. And the way you were silenced and things like that. Sometimes even embarrassed. Sometimes traumatized from being so young and taught such a negative way of looking at the world that it felt traumatizing to you. And now, when you see the world change to accept that negative world, that cynical worldview, and the injustice everywhere, and the hate everywhere, it constellates a complex within you where you overreact and you become too emotional. And sometimes you self-sabotage, which I've done with people who I love very dearly. For the stupidest reasons, sometimes I will become too emotional when these topics are just in the atmosphere. Way more than I should. Way more than what's normal for other people. And that's a lot of what's motivating this whole thing is, why do I self-sabotage so bad? I just want to get some cards that give me a contemplative meditation on this. And I'm just going to draw the cards and see if I pull a story here. Okay. Now I could read these according to the standards of Weight or the Golden Dawn, Book of Tea, or according to the way maybe Jungians or other people who study symbols have said things. Try to really use esoteric knowledge, but I think I'm going to try to make this a little personal and just play with it a little bit. Almost like a little bit of active imagination gameplay. I have the 2 again. I mean, that, I don't know if I'm just paying close attention to the 2s. Am I getting more? Is this the 4th one that I've gotten so far? It may be. I've gotten the 2 of Wands, the 2 of Swords, the 2 of Pentacles. I've gotten the High Priestess. I've gotten Justice, which isn't the 2, but reduces to 2, and obviously shares a lot of those same images. I'm not sure, but the the image of the bipolarity, and in this case, you know, I know that the 2 of Pentacles is related to being a messenger, I believe, and you know, there's actually supposed to be some positivity to it, but I don't see it. I see it as an exhausting, never-ending task that the 2 of Pentacles is in. And once again, it's trying to manage. It's trying to manage 2 things. This time it's physical more. It's okay. It's okay. I got this little doggy barking down here. And with the 2 Knights, you know, I'm going to do something strange, but I just feel like it almost... Okay, shh, quiet. It's okay. It's early in the morning, so she's guarding my house right now. Probably have a garbage man outside or something. That's the way I'm looking at it. One is a peace offering, and one is aggressive. Isn't that enough said? That task right there for me is tremendously difficult. And I don't know that I have a solution for that, but boy, does that fit with... Man, does that fit with Mars in Libra. That's the story of my adult life right there. And the problem is that Knight of Swords just is too dominant. And wouldn't you know, I have Mars right on my ascendant. Oh, it couldn't be any more. And Gemini right there too. So that's just going to be something for me to think about. I hope that that image right there is helpful to you too. I know I played around with the order of the cards a little bit, but I showed you that I did that because that's the story I saw in it. And that's the message for me today that I'm going to try to write about a little bit later. I'd love to hear your feedback. Thank you all for watching. I've been getting a few more views, a couple more comments, and even some activity on my Etsy. So I got to build a board, Hexatetraglyph, and send it off. And go enjoy my weekend a little bit. Have a little recreation. All right. I hope you do too. Take care.